The body is always seeking states of comfort, and it will display when it is in a state of discomfort.
And my guest now is Greg Williams. Greg, how are you today?
I'm alive and I'm A-OK. That's what they always
Isn't
say.
that great?
Yishak.
That's
Exactly.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
State of
Alive
mind.
and breathe. That's correct.
Uh-huh.
You came out with a new book here, Body Language Secrets to Win More Negotiations. Now, this is also an incredible topic that needs to be told, and the listeners of small, medium, and large businesses as well need to know about. Tell us about it. Body Language Secrets. Why is that so important?
Well, for one thing, everyone is always negotiating, which is what my motto is. And that means what you do today impacts the outcomes that you'll have the opportunity to
So
experience
true.
tomorrow.
How many people
If-
really get that?
Well, that's questionable for
Yeah.
sure. But
I'm sorry
there
to
are
interrupt,
times,
but
no,
okay.
not to worry. There are times when you can pick up on body language signals, even per the question you just asked as to how many people get that based on the gestures that they
So
emit
true.
when you
So
pose a
true.
question to them. So hypothetically, you say, how many people get that? And if I was to pose that question to someone that was literally in front of me, and I saw that they took a step back or whatever be the case, that would give me an idea that they were trying to get further away from the
Right.
question.
Right.
So when it comes to body language, you can get inside clues to the way someone is thinking at that particular point in time. During the negotiation process, it's also important to understand how someone is interpreting either an offer or a concession that you've requested from them, such that you know, even if they say, okay, that little
Yeah,
time that it
like-
took them to reflect on it gives you insight too.
Correct. Now, let's talk about some secrets that you ready to share.
Okay.
You walk in, you're looking to do that big $25,000 deal, $25 million, whatever it is. You're walking into the room. What are those tips that you could share when you're going in and looking to do that big deal? That these are musts. You gotta practice. You gotta have them wired in order to be successful.
Well, for one thing, prior to even entering the room, you should have done some background information on the individuals that will be in the room that you'll be negotiating with or against, depending upon the way you wish to frame the interview.
Right.
Okay, so having that insight about those individuals, the way they think, how have they cooperated with one another and or others that they've negotiated with in the past, becomes information that you have in your repertoire, such that you then go in with a mindset. Okay, you walk into the room. Good negotiators will not necessarily disclose that they have a particular role in the negotiation to the degree that holding that information from the opposing team would give that opposing team insight and information as to who the real leaders are. And thus, one way to discern such via reading body language is posing a question to one individual and watch what that individual does with the question. Does that individual look away to the person on his or her right? Does that individual take a moment, think, and then respond? All of those are thought gestures, and you even get greater insight per to what degree the other team has planned the course that they're going to implement per the negotiation.
Now, when someone responds that way, let's talk about the one that you ask the question and then they pause, think, and then respond. Do you have a way of sharing with the audience? Is that telling of how the individual interacts, or perhaps how they're protecting information in the negotiation?
Well, when it comes to reading body language, number one, you need to first establish a foundation that is normal. That's to say how a person would act in a normal environment. And then when you pose a question and all of a sudden, let's say that individual happens to be speaking at a particular pace or
Right.
something of that nature.
Right.
Yep. And then all of a sudden, the individual slows the pace of speech down. You then gain insight into the verbal, nonverbal aspect of the person being reflective per what it is that he's thinking and what it is that you have posed to cause him to think that way. Now, here's the other thing. I spoke a moment ago about always establishing the foundation
Yes.
by which someone emits body language signals. You also have to be very astutely aware of the fact that people change their perspective from time to time, and thus you have to be aware of the stimulus that you used that caused them to change
Great point.
whatever their perspective was via the body language that they emitted prior to that stimulus. We always have opportunities. We have but to look at such as such to recognize opportunities
Great
when they
point.
present themselves.
Great point. Now, Greg, you have so much wisdom to share. What would be a final takeaway on the subject of body language secrets that you could share with the audience?
Well, first of all, we are much more intuitive than we realize. Thus, there are times when we get a kinesthetic feeling. You know what? I felt a certain way about that. That's a sign that something intuitively has tried to come from your subliminal to your conscious state of mind. Pay attention to that because you have sensed something as the result of that stimuli hitting you. And as such, you may have seen a body language gesture. Someone wiped the sweat from their brow or something of that nature,
Right.
which said, hey, I'm a little anxious
Nervous,
right now.
anxious.
Exactly. And there are two aspects to always keep in mind about discerning body language, reading body language. That is, the body is always seeking states of comfort, and it will display when it is in a state of discomfort. And thus, a baby cannot speak, but it can let you know when maybe its diaper is soiled simply by crying. It's stating that it's in a state of discomfort at that particular point in time.
Now, it's a great takeaway, and I know I'm going technically against the rules because I said we're done, but I must ask you this question. I'm sure you've been asked it a million times, but we're now on the air. Social media.
Okay.
Has it killed the way people interact with each other, or there's hope for mankind?
Well, I'm an overly optimistic person, first of all. So I say, hey, as we go through life, we grow through life, and thus we have to embrace the lives that we are living in the time frame that we're doing so. And thus social media is causing us to have a different perspective per the way we interact with people, not good or bad. We can make it as such based on how we first perceive it, then how we turn around and choose to act and react in such environments.
77 WABC Radio presents Mind Your Business, hosted by founder and president of Bottom Line Marketing Group, Yitzhak Saflis. Mind Your Business focuses on business and marketing strategies for success.